All right. Still a little freaked out that I chipped my front right tooth yesterday. Still a little embarrassed about it, I guess. But I'm getting older and I need to stop. One thing that one thing that I find tasteless or distasteful about this modern world, always have, is our fear of getting old. My father, instead of throwing a birthday party for his 40th, he threw a pity party. And so I'm just not afraid of getting old. I'm not afraid of the wear and tear of time. But I am conscientious of it because finding a mate on looking beautiful and having enduring, appearing genetics is a game of young people, and finding a mate um, by being good at things is something that one finds in community. And I lack those things. So I don't worry about it. Think about it, but I don't let it slow me down. Okay. So we're going to return to reading from the Chosen Saga. I also just call this Leif. Leif. I should pronounce it like Leif. Leif. But we pronounce it Leif. We pronounce it Leif for the pump that comes from it. And from the for the hint, maybe whatever Nordic memory this world or this bloodline has really. Um, I used or there to mean and or, but anyway, is faint at best. Chapter 3 is going to look familiar if you listen to me read chapter 1. Or scene 3 is going to sound familiar if you listen to me read scene 1. But that is because I looked at it yesterday, what I had done, and I realized I was reading a scene that I just did not remember writing. I'm like, okay. And I'm like, okay, so as I'm editing this, I don't remember my intention with it, but it's very cool. And so, one of my goals is there's a 19 to 25-year-old man evolving, growing, learning very rapidly about the world and trying to process it in this original manuscript. And now I'm not writing over the original manuscript, but if the 39-year-old man comes back and changes enough of what the 25-year-old man put down and said, I'm just not old enough to finish this. I'm just not wise enough. Hello. Um, if I change enough, none of that 25-year-old man is there. It's just the inspiration of my 20s remaining. And so what I did yesterday, I fed all of my literary work. I fed all of my fiction, all of the fiction that I've written into Gemini yesterday, multiple times. And I just uh, I let it review it. I let it process it. I let it ask me questions. I let it, most importantly, I let it naturally on its own, on its, like by itself, uh, notice the similarities in all of my work. And so all of my work has a lot of the same themes. It's all has these cyclical themes running through it as I got better at telling stories with those themes. And so when we open and begin this scene, it's going to seem familiar because I changed scene one on the Patreon, and I'm not gonna change it over here because the full chapter as I have it right now is available on the Patreon, all three scenes together. And so I'm doing this as much, and the way that I'm doing it as much to let you see the process as to get the work in front of critique. I don't know if you guys know how hard it is to get critique, because people who consider themselves critiquers charge, and they're not good at their work. All they do when they critique is read to their subjective taste. And so if your subjective taste just disagrees, or if their subjective taste doesn't like a writer or an artist who has an intention, they won't read it well. They'll read it badly on purpose and still charge you. Okay. From the Chosen Saga. This closes chapter 1, by the way. I'm doing this in 3s now instead of 6s or more. Something's not right. There is so much blood. Who even is that girl toweling her face? What are those coos she's whispering? Loren isn't a scared horse. She's Eric's wife. He's only 13. He knows he shouldn't be here. But Eric said he was chosen. He said that the breath of life had touched him. Eric said he needed to be there, that no one else could help if anything went wrong. But something is clearly going wrong. Why is he not the one helping? Why is this girl? But Loren's eyes. His heart beats in his chest. He can feel how weakly hers is beating, how faint the life in her is. The baby? Can he feel the baby? His eyes dart up to Eric. The giant man is standing as far away from his wife in her sickbed as he can be, without actually leaving the room. Why isn't he by her side? What is he doing? There's an old man beside him. Rasp almost can't see him. The priest. Why is he here? Why isn't he doing anything? And why does everyone look so afraid? The torchlight flickers dark shadows in the room, glints off the beads of sweat dotting everyone's brow, even the priest's eyebrows so long that they hang to either side of his mouth, tangling with his mustaches, are impassive, limp. Something is terribly wrong. There is far too much blood. Rasp's head is spinning. He doesn't like blood. He can't breathe and his stomach cramps, moments away from spilling its contents to the floor. She screams again. So much pain. The baby isn't coming. So much blood. Rasp approaches the girl, looking to Eric for approval. The giant nods, his glacier blue eyes desperate, barely shining at all. Loren looks up at him, and he can see that the light is almost gone from her eyes. She takes his hand, looks beyond his own gaze at something deeper inside him. Save Leaf, she breathes, and the light goes out. Chapter break. This is my work. I wrote this. It's called The Chosen Saga. This is from Book 1, Chapter 1, Scene 3. Part 2. A desiccated gasp rips a stagnant breath into dusty lungs. No! It screams, wails, its cloying keen. I won't! I tried, and look what they made me do! The sound rips through the darkness of a magnificent, abandoned, frozen throne room. Echoing among the titanic wooden columns, among the tattered tapestries and frayed banners that once colored the happiest kingdom in all the world. Unsettles dust that hasn't been disturbed in so long, it, too, forgot when it was anything else. The scream resolves into a wheezing, whimpering cough, a dry hack that could be pathetic, if not for the being suffering it. A spindly, lanky, teenaged-looking thing of too tight skin, desiccated to thready webs of blue veins and muscles clinging for dear life to dry bones, looks every bit the frozen mummy, as it cradles its legs to its chest in a tattered tunic that may once have been an apprentice's robe of office, but is now a miracle of malice, clinging impossibly to this horror with its lank tendrils of hair clinging to a corpse scalp like long starved leeches. Its eyes open. Furious, hateful blackness in the thing's sunken sockets glowers out at the dark surrounding it, searing into the columnar pillar of milky white moonlight beaming through a hole in the ceiling. The necromancer sits upon his stolen throne. A voice sing-songs in a whispering cacophony of every kind of atonal voice from everywhere and nowhere, casting his gaze where the king is flown. The corpse thing jerks in its seat, a throne fit for a giant, and in which he looks like a helpless toddler, hugging himself in its deepest comfort. For warmth like King Daddy will come home and turn the hearth back on. The blue and thread of electrum drapery on the throne is weirdly lit by a pinprick of swirling light, violet, orange, reds, and blacks, all twisting and turning over one another, which has come into being just above the ground nearby. The necromancer uncurls itself, stealthy-like, hiding that it has hugged the former king's colors to its chest in its sleep. It has to scoot itself on palms and feet to reach the edge of its seat. The body herky-jerks like unused hands, or invisibly seizing them, the locomotion of the body as unpleasant and impossible as a puppet playing with itself. A black tongue scrapes at ashen, cracked lips. I have returned from the hunter, yes, it says, its adolescent voice cracking and climbing into torn registers as the freeze-dried throat shreds itself like so much parchment. It coughs, the wheezing racking the ribs like bone blades battering together. It suffers for the privilege of this twisting nether that speaks to it from anywhere and nowhere. But suffering is good. Suffering is pain. And pain is power. Yes. The hunter approaches the land the father has grown. His blade will hear the father's moan. Yes, the necromancer rasps. I know, I just said. The children will abandon the lives they have known to face the fields of death the usurper has sown. The corpse child turns its head toward the orb, now grown to larger than a large man's fist. The face is still, but the darkness in its sockets burns in weird, Burns in the weird glow of its interlocutor. Usurper, it breathes. Then, the face contorting in what can only be called a glower. The children. All of the children? The chosen will return to their home, and by 18th winter's end, reclaim the king's stolen throne. 18th winter's end, it hisses, lips tearing apart with its sneer. Leaf, why must you taunt me? Have I not prepared? A hand is thrown toward the moonish beam, and the palm falls open. The insane orb of light, now larger than the corpse thing's head, lifts from the floor like motion blur and painfully slow motion. Eyes unused to this performance might be blinded with madness, if not true sight. As they near a tremulous, geometry-fraying arc near the height of a grown man, shimmering like a hemispherical dome or the inverted womb of reality, they blink, instantly inward, disappearing in a line as thin as that between genius and madness. Then an eye 6 feet tall and half that wide yawns into existence. Tilted on its axis like a peering god had contorted itself to watch the cavorting convalescence beside it. The eye is bloodshot and diseased. Black veins trace a jaundiced green shapeless bulge that leaks pus through the hole it has made and surrounds a misshapen, evil pupil filmed over by a cataract as thick and horrific as the gulf between then and now. It gazes not upon the wretched and writhing necromancer, but upon its work. Ropey tendrils extend from the throne in every direction like the veins of an evil heart. A blue velvet carpet descends the steps and disappears in the darkness at the mouth of the keep. Beyond the columns that flank the carpet, row after row of wooden benches with high, scooped backs wait in ruined shadows, and in them, lit in sepia tones of violet and not gray, stand a whole city of motionless, bone-dry villagers. Just like the day I found them, the necromancer announces. There is a distant patter in its chest, something like that of a heart, proud, maybe even filled to bursting. They would not love him in life. They will wait with him in death until their true king returns. Then they can all live happily ever after. Or so says the storybook tale. The necromancer watches the eye, its overbig teeth almost naturally grinning as the lips pull back just a little more at the corners. The eye looks at him. Unamusement is not the word. The sound of a pathetic scream reverberates through the throne room. The necromancer's eyes dart toward the sound. How had he not felt the life so close? You've gotten lazy. You're scared. The entity whose eye is now watching him whispers in his mind, You're weak, lazy, weak, scared little boy who forgot to grow up and be a man. Shut up! The necromancer is saying when it hears itself. It doesn't know it doesn't know how long it has had its hands clamped over ears it may as well no longer have, and its head between its knees to shut out a vision eyelids haven't prevented in over a decade. Shut up. The life, it realizes, is coming closer. Close enough to be a distraction, and a pleasant one. thirsty, it mules, the lingering E, tearing the last of its working vocal cords. Languidly, it straightens its spine, the distortion of light which speaks to it from everywhere and nowhere is gone. It does not breathe a sigh of relief. It feels no relief. For it, the eye, is everywhere. The necromancer moves to the middle of the seat, crosses its legs, tugs the tatters of its tunic down over its knees, puts its hands in its lap, readies itself. It can wait. It can be patient. While its meal comes to it, let it come to me. The eye sockets are hungering hollows. They've done enough. Screams, desperate, terrified pleas for mercy reverberate through the hollow stone shell of its keep. You will fail, its God whispers in its mind. It can hear the lapping of its tongue as its lips, at the delicious irony in its meaningless existence. Futile. You are futile. You are futility. The chosen of futility. If the contortion of its mummy face had been before a wicked grin, it is now annoyed, pure and simple. I cannot fail. The necromancer snarls in its mind. You will fail to kill the Thunderfist. I will not! The corpse thing leaps to its feet. The strands of its hair fly crazily around its head as it stomps its foot and flails its arms. The Thunderfist will die! I will take what is mine! The unmistakable far-off sound of mad, mocking laughter flits between its ears, panning between them, as though between the very hemispheres of what remains of its brain. And when they are returned to death, the necromancer vows, as if reassuring its god, I will be free to release you from your prison. You will fail me. I cannot fail! It howls in its mind. How can you succeed where my circle failed? They are 13. They are 13. You are only one. The watchers beneath the great walled cities state. Enough. I dine. The first of the Thunderfists will fall. I will be there to see it. You will not take that from me, too. Will I not? It states, as though agreeing or vowing or possibly even praying for that outcome for it. Whatever the case, the necromancer has had enough of it. The connection between them is, for now, severed. It rests its chin on steepled hands like a thoughtful vizier. The Enosai are fools. I am chosen. I am no simple wizard. Are they? The necromancer is not sure which of the voices which reside inside it ask this question, or whether, perhaps, it weren't some weird, third, unnameable observer. But it puts this out of its mind. The life form emerges into the beam of moonlight, a man, silent now, dragged by a pair of meticulously articulated human skeletons. At a glance, one might say not a single bone is anything but where it should be, and behaving as it might have in life. Vile glee fills the void that might have been the necromancer's terrible heart as it gazes down upon the supplicant. The man's life may be faint right now. His heart is barely beating. The terror of what has already happened to him combining with this new intelligent sort of horror and a shock that might have killed another. But it was strong before this. It might be again if he survived. But he will not. The necromancer no longer needs to touch, to do what it will do to this man. but it does prefer to savor the non-locality of it. It watches as the man's eyes meet its, then lock there. It does not know this creature, or he, the man, does not know this creature. The necromancer knows this. The others, the so many others, knew him. They knew what was happening to them on some level, and why. This man could not possibly. He is the first of a new batch, a new project, a new experiment. It can no longer speak, the necromancer. There will be no monologue, no drawn mock apology for what is happening. The man will never learn why he had to die this night. Or is it day? In this place, there is no way to know. Not anymore. Not for 13 years. The man's eyes widen. The agony there is excruciating. Yes. The necromancer thinks, drinking in that agony like the finest pre-meal wine. There it is. To the necromancer's vision alone, a single cord extends into the darkness behind the man, connected somewhere between his navel and the base of his spine. I think I'll just... The man gasps. A noise, like he'd felt only the merest hint of pressure. Then he opens his mouth and sighs. A blue mist, with its own sort of luminescence, drifts out of his now slack, dead jaws. Not quite the condensation of that final breath. Not quite a weird reflection of the columnar light. He slumps in the skeleton's arms and they exit with him. Work for later. The fog crosses as a mass, as though intelligent and compelled toward the necromancer. It leans forward, sticking its face in the cloud, and breathes. An almost youthful vigor returns to the glassy blue wirework skin. Enough plumpness returns to the lips that they smack together, wetly, as though rejuvenated by a long, full draft on the world's headiest ale. The throat coos, no sign that it's anything but 13 and supremely satisfied with itself. Pursing its lips, the necromancer blows out a fine black mist that floats like an oily snake away into the darkness after the skeletons. It's gonna be too easy, actually, he says to the gathered assembly. What do you think? Do we save Lorraine for last? Or take her first? Theme. That's chapter 1. You got 11 more. Minimum. It's probably going to turn into 30. Probably do 33 cycles of 3. Land on a 99. And that 100 is book 2. That's probably how I'm going to do it. Because I like math. And fuck you, that's why. So now that I've done working for no praise, you guys can have the show. You can have the floor. I'll go back to making it about you. What I've learned about myself is that this that I'm doing, I was doing it back then too. I didn't think of the writing as scripting. I thought of the writing as discovery. Who are these characters? Who is this character? What is this world? What's going on? What's happening in my imagination? How far can I push this? Like the Tool song, Lateralis. If we follow the spiral, it may just go where no one's been. And so if I just follow these characters as their lives spiral out of anything recognizably like control, their control especially, and I just follow them, what happens? And it became too complex very quickly, and so I had Leaf run away from it all. And instead of trying to say, okay, this is where he arrives and this is where the complexity begins to spiral out of control again, because I couldn't control the spiraling. I wasn't trying to control it. It was that I didn't know what to prune yet. And so it was just, the bush was just getting so big, and it was getting outside of my ability to connect the dots together anymore and to manipulate the plot threads so that they were exciting and they wove into a narrative core that is this cable that can absorb the tension of banging on it to see what other stories are in there as it ripples out. What I did is I just focused the camera on Leaf and I didn't turn it off for hundreds of thousands of words, maybe 200,000 or 300,000 words. And then I realized this isn't a story that anybody's going to read. And so I cut off the first major narrative plot point and I just focused on it. And then every time a character, I noticed that a character should be doing something here, I introduce the character back here to see how they arrive there instead of backfilling it when they arrive. Okay, here they are. This is what they've been doing. Go, like a TV show or a manga will do. Just launch them into the narrative at the point where they enter. Okay, what if we don't do it that way? And then, like I said, I was feeding it through Gemini. Fed the whole thing to it, and then I was feeding it scene after scene. Okay, let's talk about this scene compared to the finished novel. Let's talk about this scene with the finished novel. Because what I need is somebody who's read it all a few times. It's too big. Even on one pass, Gemini's like, okay, that's too big, so we're going to focus on the big stuff. And then I do it again. I'll give it a chapter or a scene or a line of text, and I'll give it the whole thing again. And then it'll say, okay, well, we're going to use that line of text or that scene or that chapter, and we're just going to compare it to the rest of the work and how all of these plot threads play out, things like that. And then I'll go, okay, well, here's all of Rob, and I'll dump Rob on it, and she'll do the same thing. Oh, okay, I can see because Rob comes next, linearly in time or temporally for me. In time, Rob comes next because I put down the draft that I'm now editing and presenting to you. I put that down and went immediately into Rob because I was having trouble visualizing. I was having a lot of trouble visualizing Leaf because, as you can see, the magic isn't hand waved away. I'm trying to give you the experience that these people are having as they're manipulating these primordial, elemental, and non-real energies, these non-real experiences, non-standard, non-real, real to them most certainly, but like I even write in the text, only you can't actually see it if you're standing there with him. The camera can't actually see it. Only the necromancer can see the silver cord. And so if you have a world of tight rules, this is what I noticed about fantasy. When you read, yeah, I'm gonna lose my audience because anybody who came here to like, oh, I'm also a writer, let me see what you're doing, is going to just, oh fuck no, out. That's too hard. That's why literacy and literature are what they are. Literature is the most difficult thing a human being can do. Our brains are not designed to read or write. We're not designed for this. And because so few of us over the course of time have actually done it, we have not passed on as a sexual selective character trait in humans genetically the ability to read and write well. So we can climb trees pretty fucking well because enough of our ancestors did it well that we passed it on as a sexually selective trait. Reading and writing, watching movies, critical thinking, these are not sexually selective traits. The way our genome works, okay? The way our genome works, the way our DNA works, the way our sexual selectivity works, actually what gets passed on from parents to child There's a process in our DNA, in the way our DNA arranges itself at the zygote stage, at the coming together of the two pairs of the two sets of chromosomes, right? At that stage, the DNA unwrites all of the epigenetic changes that the parents underwent in their development to adulthood, to sexual maturity. The DNA unwrites all of the epigenetic changes. And so what that means is that what an epigenetic change is you have certain genes in your DNA, right? You have certain things about you that only activate according to your environment. And so what that means is some of them may not activate until later in life, right? In your development, as your DNA is ossifying into the thing that you're going to pass on to a child. Well, the things that you pass on to the child are not the environmental adaptations that you specifically have. Both of your parents cut those out at you when they made you, and you are the blank slate human that they were when they were born. You get half of the blank slate human they were when they were born. That prevents radical evolutions in small population size. That's why all of us are still Homo sapiens. If that didn't happen, you would be able to see in just 4 or 5 generations what happens with dogs. You would see rapid speciation in humans because of the epigenetic changes that we can force. We know how to trigger in human beings now, and that they knew how to trigger in horses and dogs 10,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, really. But that's not the point. The point is, what I realized is that I wasn't good enough. And so I just left the camera on Leaf, and I just left it on him until I had too much material. And now I'm good enough, now that I see it. But I need humans to read it. I need humans to read it. And I don't even have humans that'll sit and listen to me talk about the how they were made. You won't even sit and listen to the material, the factory process of how you came to be you at the beginning, the raw block of material that was given to you. You won't even sit and listen to me tell you how you became a raw block of material, and that all of the environmental and personal changes that you make to you aren't sexually selective and will not pass on to your children. Nobody wants to fucking hear that, because the child becomes a secondary block of material that they have to work on, and fucking nobody wants to hear it. But that's what my work is about. I was a block of material up until 25 that I had worked on, and the writing is a secondary block of material because I didn't have a child. It was a secondary block of material for me to work on toward self-improvement, toward self-mastery, toward mastery of my environment. But my work, literature, it's not sexually selective. That's why people get so offended that I do it. They're like, but you're not getting laid for that. No, I'm not. That's not inspirational or aspirational. That's not going to get me laid. And I'm like, well, right, but you've never read the Mahabharata, so you don't know how, like, played that particular narrative cycle is. That narrative cycle is as old as the Indo-European language family. Like, if you don't want to believe in racism, then we have to do something better than I deserve sex for everything I do. Because that only works until the first child. If you pursue that behavior after the first child, you're sexually abusing the first child. You're teaching them a pattern of abuse that's epigenetic. Learned behavior is adaptive behavior. This is why so many of you are afraid to learn, refuse to learn. Learned behavior is adaptive behavior. Learning how to make a McDonald's process or McDonald's hamburger and the specific process that McDonald's undergoes to make a hamburger is adapting to the environment of McDonald's. This is why nobody at Panera can make a sandwich worth a damn. None of them will adapt to the environment. None of them will learn the correct way to do it. It's an epigenetic process. It doesn't get you laid and it doesn't make your children better. I saw someone, I opened Twitter because it said I had notifications. And who the fuck could be notifying me on Twitter? And I looked and it was just a bunch of fucking spam. And one of the fucking things that it notified me that, hey, you would like this, was somebody saying that actually being good and competent at your job is a sign of low intelligence. So I just retweeted that out. Um, Not being good at your job is a sign of low intelligence. Not caring about anything is low intelligence. Only people of average or above average intelligence can care enough to be good at things. You have to be unintelligent. You have to be unable to learn, retain, and accurately regurgitate information. That's what intelligence is defined as. You have to be unintelligent in order to not care. The process of giving a shit is the process of realizing that if I do not take this in, process it, and regurgitate it accurately every time, I'm bad. I'm useless to this environment. That is the process of intelligence. Being aware of your thoughts and the thoughts of others, that is intelligence. Like the reason that rats make such better pets, for example, than dogs, is because rats are aware of their thoughts. You can teach a rat to be self-conscious. You can teach a rat to share because they're aware of their thought process. Dogs aren't. The bummer with rats is that they only live for 2 years and they get sick real easy. Real easy. It's real sad. I fucking hate it. They don't know. They don't care that they've got respiratory illness, but I fucking hate it. That's a horrible way to live. And they don't appreciate the passage of time, but I do. And so watching the deleterious effect of respiratory infection in a rat over the course of 6 months eventually fucking suffocate it to death is a sad thing to experience. Even as much as I love the little fucking guy. It's sad. And so that's why they're not actually better pets than dogs. That's why nobody goes, you should have a rat at all times. And people go, you should have a dog at all times. Because dogs are not aware. The dog doesn't know the difference in the carpet and the grass. It's not sexually selected for a dog to be smart, to be intelligent. It might be sexually selected for a rat to be intelligent, to be able to cooperate, and to be able to stop and think, if I steal that from him, he's going to fight me over it. And for the other one to think, if I leave this where he can steal it, I'm going to fight him over it. Like, to be aware of your thoughts it's a high order biology. And a lot of humans, a stunning number of humans, refuse it. Like, yeah, you don't want to agree with that. That's not a statement you want to agree, because agreeing with that indicates that you're one of them. Talking about other people tends to indicate that you don't think about yourself closely enough. And so that's how I arrived here. That's how I arrived here. I'd been shining the camera internally on myself for so long, watching the reel, watching what I was seeing on the internal camera for so long. And it's only now that I realize that what I just did is I put the camera on my characters and I just didn't turn it off. You can always edit it out, but if everything they do is interesting, why would you want to? That's what reality TV is. That's the whole point. That's why we have serials. That's why we want shows that we can binge, right? That just go on and on and on and on forever. Like in TV on Netflix, we don't really want narrative or plot development. We just want cool shit to happen that aligns with a plot. These shows, these TV shows like Stranger Things, they're not really books. They're not the same as book series. And even book series, we don't want all that much to change between books. You don't want all that much to change between books. You want the characters to remain the same. You just want them to do cool, like uh increasingly cool shit in an increasingly large but not complex world. And I read those books and I hated that shit. And so I turned left at Albuquerque almost immediately. Actually, I started turning left. I started taking left turns. Not even zigging where y'all zag, just like if you take a left turn when everybody else is following the path, just every turn you make after that, you're going to make by yourself. No one else is going to make it. If everybody goes straight and you just hang an immediate left, you are in unexplored territory. So that's what my literary work is. My literary work is entirely unexplored territory. I've never found anybody. I've been looking for 20 years for somebody else. I found it in music. Catatonia made the music that was in my heart. And I said, oh, thank God I don't have to also make music. Catatonia make music. Paul Bearer make music. Thank God. But I've read so many books. So many. So many novels. I got online and I got on I went to critique sites and well, if nobody will read my shit, I'll read their shit and see if I can't get into a critique circle jerk where at least somebody will pass my shit around. Never found that, but I have read so much amateur and semi-professional literature, and it's so bad. It's all so bad. It's all driven by cliche and awkward sentence structures. It's so bad. And so here I am, patching mine up. Mine's good. I don't know if this is great. I don't know if Leaf is great. I could probably make it most excellent, but it's also the first chapter, and I'm working on a first 50 words rule. The idea is just to hook you through every scene until you just get to the end, and you're like, oh fuck, I need more, and I'm like, 3 books, 3 more books. Calm your fucking tits. I'm starting to think that my chat's broken because I've been talking for almost an hour and nobody has tried to interrupt me to call me a faggot. I'm starting to think this thing ain't working. Hey, you broke? What day is today? Say Friday? I guess it's no longer true that my every single day, no days off work ethos is inspiring. I guess that's just not true anymore. I guess when it gets into the winter, everybody's like, I just don't want to work anymore. I wish I understood that. I'm feeling feisty today. It's snowing. I don't feel like leaving the tent. I feel like fighting somebody. Oh, shit. Why are you on? How did you turn on? You didn't. Good hand warmer. I'm gonna put my hand warmer in my shoes. I'm gonna start getting out of here. You guys are boring me today. Maybe we're different. Maybe I'm writing, maybe on some level as a kid, As a 20-year-old, I was writing for future AI. I was just writing for the future library of human knowledge, so that people in the deep future could have something to talk about. Maybe I'm just too far ahead. Maybe I'm just still too far ahead of the cultural conversation. And that's why when we go to Panera, I'm going to take you back through references. You don't care about the things that I'm exploring. You just could not give less of a shit about the things that I'm exploring. So I'll just take you to my influences. Fine. I think you're insecure about that too, because I wear my influences right on my sleeve. I don't try to hide them. I take visual and other literary motifs and I put them right there. Yeah, you're behind the cultural conversation. Which cultural conversation are you behind on? All of it? Okay. That seems kind of impossible. I don't know that we have a singular cultural conversation, or even that there's like even one big conversation happening right now. The the centralization of American authority in the Western Hemisphere isn't really a cultural conversation that anyone's actually having. Trump establishing the United States as a cultural and economic powerhouse again, um, and then defending our poles so that Russia can't just attack us from Antarctica and Argentina. That's not really a conversation anyone's actually having. And so, like, the conversation in music right now is that Megadeth have retired and Tim Henson released a new song that's not any good. And what's anybody talking about that's on TV? I don't see it. I don't see anybody having a cultural conversation anymore. Culture has gone mute for doom scrolling through anti-intellectual brain rot. I don't know what conversation. Okay, well, if you're with Russia, you're on the wrong side. If you're with Russia, you're a neo-Nazi, and we're not friends. Russia's goals are racial supremacy. We don't talk about it because there are a lot of neo-Nazi voters in the Western Hemisphere. Like a stunning amount. I need a new toothbrush. Well, sure, but a Nazi-like mentality isn't actual neo-Nazism. And in fact, the Nazis accused everybody of having the Nazi-like mentality. Okay. Well, you need a lot of things. Maybe. All right. That's my chores done. Done. Ding. Call it done did. All right. That marks an hour. Hey, Jackie. I was just going to say. If I didn't get any regulars show up soonish, I was going to call it. Because my shoes are almost thawed, and it's snowing. My tooths is brushed. Let's go get them dirty and nasty again by eating lunch. One of these days, you're gonna love me, said. Pretty sure that was Tim McGraw, actually. But one of these days, it's gonna go ching with super chats and super likes and gems while I'm reading my work. But that day is not today, and I don't anticipate it to be tomorrow either. Someday. It happens for other people. It'll happen for me too. Hey, I'm not worried about it, Jackie. Just so long as you're good. I ended up not going live in the latter half of yesterday because, frankly, because the work that I read this morning was too good to leave it in the state that it was in. The stuff you were hollering about? Oh, we're walking on thin ice now. Hey, see, are you, I don't know if I would disregard it. Probably regard it about the same as I was. Regarded. Accepted. What happened? Did you and your girl get into a fight after you talked to me? Get in the robot, Shenji. Aww. You don't want to yo-yo or whiplash on this. Okay. Well, has it... What if you cared the same amount? What if you cared the same amount and you were more strategic in when you showed it? Yeah, how do you think that would change how she reacts? If you cared the same amount, then maybe you were more strategic in when you showed it. okay. That's a conversation that you could just sit down and say, hey, when do I not do it? When is doing it going to hurt your feelings and make you feel weak and make you feel invalid? When can I not show it, but still feel it? And not feel like you don't know that I feel it if I'm not showing it. Just let her be. Not everybody wants people to know and see that they're hurting and that they're scared. You gotta just let her be. See, the flip side of the coin that you gotta fight for love is what they tell men. So you tell women you gotta fight for love because women don't fight usually for the right reasons. But what they tell men is that if you love her, you gotta let her be. You gotta let her leave. We gotta let her have her own space and her own time, and you gotta let her walk away. And if she comes back, it was meant to be. And if she doesn't come back, you just gotta be prepared to move on. There are a million country songs about this. I'm okay. I'm disappointed, but I'm disappointed every day. You'll have to um, define that for me a little bit. What do you mean specifically? What do you mean about that? Which thing? Or is it just all of them? Is it which behavior pattern are you recognizing when you say, "Is that how I remain so strong?" Well, the belief that all of you will come back if it's meant to be. The belief that anyone who's ever watched any of my shorts or any of my long forms, any of my lives, that if you go and visit the Patreon, that if it was meant to be, if it was meant to stick with you, if you were meant to care about me and my work, if it was meant to be, you'll come back. But like I've also made videos about this too, that like the people that say unconscionable things to me or that waste enough of my cognitive effort that I eventually mute them, they're not going to get unmuted. So when they come back and that door is still closed, but they see that other people didn't make that initial mistake, and that I have a large and thriving community of people around me, they just get to miss out forever, and they get to know they missed out forever. So yeah, that is one of the techniques that I use. I bind all of my life, and I twist it all around into a cord, and then I use that. I kind of described it earlier in a metaphor with Rod, but yeah, it's about making ropes out of ropes. So if you look at a rope, like a 3-ply rope, it's all these strands of fibers that are twisted and braided around one another, right? And then it's pliable and you can do things with it. But if you do that, if you take 3-3-ply ropes and you make a 3-ply rope out of 3-3-ply ropes, you're going to have a lot more tensile strength. It's going to be less flexible, but you're going to have more tensile strength. And so what people don't understand about me is that I'm actually not very flexible, but I have a lot of tensile strength. Well, no. Letting her be isn't proving that you don't care. Unless she tells you that you let her be for too long, and that proves you don't care. And then if you say, well, if showing you that I care at all times is too much, and then giving you space is too much, then you are the only person who can tell me where just right is, Goldilocks. Otherwise, this is kind of gaslighting and emotional abuse. So I understand that you're leaving, but I don't want you to leave me with memories of you like this. Work with me here. I made 10 cents. Don't worry about it, Jackie. Don't stress over it. That's what I don't want you doing. You're not my mom. And she wouldn't stress over it. And I don't want you to think that you have to be my only source of income. I have a guy. He'll visit, hey man, I'm fucking struggling. Actually, he did yesterday. He sent me $50. I cannot eat lunch on 10 cents. No. So today's work, no, I have not made money. I made enough money to eat on today with yesterday's work. I forgot about that. Thank you, Mr. S. Shout out to Mr. S, everybody. Big W's in chat. And gratitude to Mr. S in the comments, please, from the future audience. It's not that I'd forgotten about it. It's that I'd forgotten about it. I'd placed it away in my head. Yeah. Yeah, he said some really nice things. He asked me how I spent my day, and I told him I spent it writing. And then I thought I was going to go live, and I ended up didn't go live. And so he asked me if I made any money, and I told him no. And so he sent me some money for spending all that time working on my dreams. He said that alone, just knowing that I'm out there doing that, is worth that to him. It means something to him. I'm great, Third Eye Cracker, and I don't know if he wants to celebrate it, and I don't know if he wants to talk about it, but he was also doing that to share in his success at work. Um, he didn't he didn't want to tell me that um, good things are happening for him at work, and that he's really excited about it. Um, Without hearing me telling him about my work first. And that's just a really fucking class act. That's class A human behavior. That's I'm not even good at that. But he was conscientious of the fact that I might not be eating while this really good thing is about to happen for him, and so he wanted to know. He wanted to know about my wins and losses, and he sent me some money to eat on today with, and that was just really fucking cool of him. Thank you for asking, Jackie. I'm only telling this because you asked. For today's work, no. But if it were bumming me out and I were worried about it, I have a guy, Shaggy Dog Storyteller. I just owed him specific gratitude to the channel. Specific gratitude. I made a little bit yesterday. I'm in a good place. I am generating revenue. We are getting traffic. There are a lot of people that come in and they dip out because they don't want to. They don't want to tip. They'll come back and they'll watch it later, for the ad rev, and I respect the fuck out of that if they come back. You weren't pushing me harder. You weren't pushing me anywhere I wasn't prepared to go, Jackie. It wasn't inappropriate. You have nothing to be sorry for. I positively affirm that because like you said, you bought my time. You bought the time. And I know you're Greek. I read a lot of your literature. Um, I'm all the time talking about the difference in Aphrodite and Eros. I understand what you're doing. I understand. And when you say love, you mean Eros, and I know exactly what you're talking about. I know what you're talking about. You were talking to somebody who misspells your native language because he admires the way your native people think. I was embarrassing myself by articulating that yesterday, but you weren't offending me at all. That's what I'm here to do. Just turn the camera on. I met her telling that story. For sure, Cracker. For sure. That was a mythology that used to go around before the Beauty and the Beast Disney movie, where people used to say, you want to be kind to strangers because you never know which one of them is Jesus. And that's where Beauty and the Beast came from. You want to be kind to strangers because you don't know which one of them is a vengeful witch. Real shit. Angels are terrifying. You think, oh, you never know which one of them is an angel, and there's a certain Eastern Orthodoxy where you could say, oh, that just means messenger to God and angelos, but that also kind of means, the terrifying thing that has the flaming sword at the Garden of Eden. Like, these things are supernatural entities. God knows. God only, quite literally in this case, knows of what they are capable. There's an inherent threat there. It's like, always treat people with kindness. You never know which one of them is an extraterrestrial alien with a ray gun. I understand that, Jackie. That's why I let it be a part of the channel, is because I know there are a lot of people who would just like to see me be happy. I'm a better hang when I'm in a good mood. I'm not saying you're wrong, Kraka. I'm agreeing with you entirely. This is a thought experiment I do all the time. What if that guy turns out to be a CIA spy who could crash my life just to do it? What if the reason my life is the way it is because I upset somebody and I didn't know it? In fact, my channel is kind of a thought experiment on that. It's like, how many drama channels can I spin off from my channel just by turning a fucking guy's voice off? How many people can I get to get behind the microphone, and then when they're asked later in their career, why did you start? They can go, this guy Shaggy Falalitea called me a dickhead and muted me. I would love that. That's infamy. There'd be a whole corner of the internet that just hates me for no fucking reason, but knows exactly who I am. Because I'm not unconvinced that I'm not being monitored and that I haven't been monitored by the United States government since I was in grade school. My father was a soldier. My father worked on things he's not allowed to talk about for the U.S. military, so it wouldn't surprise me at all if the same stuff that led to the same book series that became Stranger Things. I wouldn't be surprised if I was caught up in some of that stuff on the very, very, very far periphery of it, at the end of it. They used to pull me out of classes to test me individually in grade school through middle school. They, the school. There's a secondary explanation for that. That time period was also the testing period. They told us for our EOGs every year that we were among the last. My life has felt like the Truman Show before I watched that show. I knew that adults were observing and monitoring me in ways that they weren't observing and monitoring my peers. I understood. That is the first movie. Using the Truman Show is actually a really interesting reference. I'm not good at understanding plots and understanding. I might be Asperger's, but I'm also deeply sheltered. I was very deeply sheltered. So it takes me rewatches of movies to understand the emotional motivations of characters. Truman Show was the first movie I watched. We watched it on my birthday, the summer it came out, 97 or whatever that was. I'd have been 10 or 11. Fudge the timelines. Whenever that movie came out, that was the first movie that I watched. And I went, I understand this character's motivations. Final Fantasy VIII. That's why we're playing it for the channel. That's the first character that when I reacted to the things that people were saying, and then I hit X and Squall reacted, we reacted verbatim the same. These were the first times in my life where I was like, I understand what I'm experiencing right now. I get these characters. Yeah, I've felt like that my whole life. And so the secondary explanation for why they pulled me to test me apart from my peers is probably that the No Child Left Behind, that was implemented my freshman year. My grade, my class, 2005, were the last class that were tested on the previous testing scale, but we had to do both. We were pulled out of class and in big groups, my class, all 4 years of high school, and we were given end of grade style tests that it didn't matter whether we passed or failed. But they asked us to take them. Thank you. Thank you, Jackie. But they asked us to take them seriously so that the younger people had a benchmark to reach, that we were considered the benchmark that these kids had to at least get to. It made total sense to me. They may have pulled me out individually because I was an exceptional learner and a terrible student. No, I was never, they never tested me for psionics. That's what I'm saying. I think I was on the very far periphery of the observation of kids that we could test or see if this kid comes out special, comes out like Ted Kaczynski. I really do think that that happened to me until high school. Because when I got to university, they weeded me out hard. They encouraged me to drop out, and they wouldn't let me not re-enlist. They wouldn't let me reapply. And every time I've tried to apply to university after that, and they've seen my transcripts, they don't want anything to do with me. Just like Gosh, they react just like Gosh. We don't want anything to do with you. You saw the pictures in their eyes. No, they never did that to me. But you know what I'm talking about. That was a real thing. They were really testing kids to see if we were psychic. The psychic children phenomenon thing, it is a documented thing that happened. It's been not declassified, but what do the UFO guys call it? They were testing us. It's not a conspiracy theory. But if I wanted to try to debunk it like it's a conspiracy theory, I was probably removed from the classroom because I had exceptional grades up until sixth grade, and I didn't engage in class, and they knew who my dad was. Yeah, probably. Well, back then, that's the thing, is like if you've looked into this stuff, like if you've read or watched the movie The Men Who Stares at Goats, really read the book and then go and I don't remember his name. I'm not going to try to remember his name, but watch the authors conversations about that research, and they believed wacky shit, and they were happy to believe um easily falsifiable psychic reports. They were happy to find it in kids and believe it. So yeah, they probably did, and they were happy to. The military was doing anything it could to get a leg up on Russia back then. Anything it could. Because communism doesn't have to tell its people that it's testing on them or why or how. So communism had a huge leg up in creating psychic wizards, psychic warriors. It had a huge leg up. Yeah, people are very easy to fool. Very easy to fool. Yeah, that's how street magicians and politicians work. Is they fool you into believing silly things, like that they can make cards appear, for example, or that they can psychically know which cards you picked, like things like this. People are easy to fool. That's what I was saying. Um, our brains were not. I was saying this at the beginning. Our brains didn't evolve to critical thinking, and critical thinking isn't sexually selective. So if you are a particularly good critical thinker, and your wife is a particularly good critical thinker, and you have a child, and you don't teach them how to be a good critical thinker, they are going to be the base human, and the base human is not a good critical thinker. It's like if you go and you research blue and you look into blue, there's this guy who believes that blue is an illusion and blue is not real, and that we have to no, I try not to dream, Jackie. I don't like dreaming. Um that that blue is an illusion, but what blue is a word for a spectrum of light, okay? And so what he did is he did this thing where he just didn't teach his daughter, the color blue. Yeah, there's this guy who thinks that the color blue isn't real, and that we didn't used to see it in the ancient world, because Homer doesn't use a word that means blue. He uses adjectives and similes to describe blue. He doesn't ever use the word blue. But this guy's wrong, because lapis lazuli and blue dye, later called techelet, by the Jewish people. Um, those way pre-existed Homer by thousands of years. This guy's just an idiot and wrong. But what he did was he did this experiment on his daughter where he didn't teach her the word blue, and then he asked her what color the sky was, and she's like, it's just, it doesn't have a color, because she didn't know the word blue. Okay? Not because the sky doesn't have a color associated with it, but because she didn't know to look for blue in things, and she didn't know to see shades of blue, blueness. She didn't know what blueness was because she didn't have the name blue. That's all this guy did. And that's kind of what I was talking about earlier. If you don't have the words, you don't have the names, you don't have the exposure, you can't see the thing. And that's why my work is in the state that it's in. Is that I'm drawing from so many different influences and so many different color spectra that you just can't see. You can't see the way they overlap, and you can't see the rainbows in it, for example. Yeah, you would love lapis lazuli. It's beloved in the Mediterranean. Lapis lazuli is the Mediterranean's turquoise. Sure, but when you draw a picture of the sky, you just use a blue crayon and you fill it in. Oh, I'm sorry to hear that, Jackie. You bond, you attach to things very tightly. You and I have different attachment styles. You and your lady might have different attachment styles. That's the kind of thing that you can only explore in couples therapy. You need somebody who understands attachment styles and how to mesh those attachment styles into a firm bond. Because if she has an insecure attachment style, she's attaching to you like this. That guy thought he was doing a reality experiment. What he was doing was a psychological experiment. He didn't understand the parameters of his experiment because he didn't have enough information to backfill his questions. It's kind of what I'm saying. And just that's kind of what I'm saying throughout this. Part of why people ask me, why'd you leave something this good or something good enough on the shelf for 15 years? And the answer is because I didn't have enough experience or knowledge or information or wisdom to backfill the questions that I had of the text. And I haven't found anybody who will read it well enough to have good questions of the text so I can answer them in the text. Yeah, that sounds like insecure attachment style. That the only way you can work through that, I'm not going to be able to help you fix that because I don't know her, right? I don't know her. The only way you're going to be able to fix that is by working on your attachment styles, meshing your attachment styles together. Because so long as she believes that, she's going to act like that. And so that means that you're going to be stretching this net to constantly cover for all of these different areas that she wants to be independent, which she's going to feel like you're smothering her every time. And so she's going to have to lock herself into smaller and smaller spaces that you feel increasingly like you just cannot get into. And you don't need to, especially if she's leaving soon. If she's leaving soon, there are a lot of things in her past that she just doesn't get to let you fix. Yeah, it's sad. But this is just what life is like. This is why I read the old stories. This is why I read the old books. This is why I listen to the old masters. Because life used to be short and brutish. A broken finger, a broken leg, a broken arm, a head wound. These could end life as you understood them. And they made you invalid. And you had to lean on community. Okay? But Every time you've described her, my first thought is, oh, she sounds like a cat woman. She sounds like she was just left alone for too long. She's half feral, and if she's leaving, there's no domestication that's going to happen there. Reminds me of my Wiley and Vader. I didn't know, but they were both terminally ill when I adopted them, so I only got 4 years with them. But what they both wanted, through the worst of the suffering, was just to know that I loved them. And that if they came to me because they needed to be held, because it just hurt so bad, that I would hold them. And that I was doing my best. But that my life would go on stronger because they loved me. And sometimes that's just the hand that we're dealt. That's just the way it goes. It's not fun. It's not beautiful. Nobody wants to watch that movie. Nobody wants to sit in that shit with you. I know. And that's why I just don't turn the camera off. Because the humanity is between the jump cuts. Like if you know jazz, they say that the music in jazz is between the notes. The humanity, the beauty, right? That's in the stories that we can't tell. And nobody wants to hear. The hard moments. But I think a lot about Goku. It's just a fiction. It's just a story. But he spends all his time in this increased gravity. So that when he emerges to do the hard thing, it's not quite so much weight on his shoulders. I don't like to talk about it, but I've had a lot of people in my life. The people who've done real good, just showed up and done unconditional good things. Because I had done something that really mattered for their life, were all terminally ill. All of them. So many. And so the Egyptians, they believed that so long as one living person remembered your name, you weren't really dead. You weren't really gone. That you lived on in their legacy. Right? They do. And so if we just never stop talking about him. I advocate for this all the time. Just never stop talking. If we just don't stop talking about them, if we don't forget them, Aleteo, right? If we just don't forget, then they're not really gone. No, I can't hold Vader anymore. She doesn't come and sleep on my chest anymore. When I've fallen asleep in Rob, she doesn't sleep on my shoulders anymore to keep me warm. But I still remember all the things that she taught me, right? Sometimes I wake up in the morning and I can feel her rubbing her face against mine. I taught her how to give good morning kisses. Vader, my cat. And so she would wake me up in the morning to feed them by rubbing her mouth on mine. Yeah, she died so hard. And then Wiley he just slowly forgot how to be alive after she was gone. Yeah. So with a person, I know it's different, right? I know it's different. And so what I'm saying is that we savor every moment, and we remember them, and we remember that they're still telling a story, right? Their story is still their pain. It's still the things that they have left unsaid, undone, right? So we remember that we're still a secondary character in their story until their story has become ours. And then we remember it, and then we tell it. Just tell the story. It doesn't matter if it's good. It doesn't matter if anybody listens. Just tell the story. Tell it to someone. Because he loves us, we die. Because God loves us, we die. Mercy. Mercy is that the suffering will end. The pain will end. The fear, it will end. Because he loves us. If he hated us, it would go on and on and on, and it would never end. Look at what Zeus is the same Judeo-Christian God. They understood him in exactly the same terms that Abraham understood his God. And look what Zeus did to Prometheus. I read it for the story, but look what he did to him. That's hatred. That's hatred. I do not believe that you could sit in my audience having done something so horrific that God could hate you. not sit in my audience, not in silence. The people who speak have done things that are abhorrent to God. I see it. Many of the people who speak have done things that are abhorrent to God. And they speak because, as they say in the South, they got that demon Satan in them. But this is a real war we're fighting. And so my work has been about conceptualizing it since I was very young. Since I was very young, I identified that evil is not a real thing, but it is a real thing that people do. Why would God hate us? There are reasons that God would hate us. There are crimes against humanity, like sex with children, that God would hate us for. Black magic begins at an abhorrent, unforgivable act. The contract with Satan begins at an unforgivable act. And Jesus made this very clear. God hates us for the sins that we won't ask forgiveness. God would hate us for many reasons. We can be hateful to God for many reasons. Yes. Yeah. The ancient world's conception of immortality was to age forever but not be allowed to die. That's correct, Jackie. I don't know what that means, Chocolate. Hello, Henry. There is a Greek myth. I don't remember his name, but Plato references him. Horrifying. Yeah, that's what I've done with my necromancer. Actually, that's what I've done with a lot of my villainous characters. That's what some of the villains in Rob are as well, and that's actually what happens to everybody in The Last Sandcastle. That's the fate. The ultimate fate of humanity is to be trapped in a cyborg body that can't die while your brain is kept alive forever. Because if the AI powers the electricity is never going out. Tithonus, yeah. Thank you. Tithonus, even. It's kind of a pun. Back then they liked sounds like is like puns. They liked homophones. And that TH is aspirated in a way that kind of sounds like Titan, because I don't think they would have called a Titan. I'm pretty sure it would have been a Titan, something like that. It's a great story. It's a great story about humility. The Greek mythology, man, they didn't need the Abrahamic, they didn't need the Judeo-Christian mythology. They already had a perfectly well-built mythology about humility. Perfectly well-built. Plato and Socrates are railing against the Periclean Athenian League that they've lost all touch with humility. All touch with humility in their search for the perfect, unbreakable Athenian League. I love Greece. Love it. I want to be in Greece so bad. Don't think about that too hard, Jackie. I love Greece. I love Greek culture. So did Rome, frankly. Fuck. Frankly, Christianity, it doesn't know this, but Christianity is a Greek cultural religion. Roman Catholic Christianity will deny that to its core. But if you want the real religion, you want real Christianity, just go sit in an Eastern Orthodox service. That's what Christianity was supposed to be. And it used to be called Greek Orthodox. Just go sit in a real Greek church. That's how it's supposed to be done. That's how it was done shortly after Jesus died. The Latin liturgy is in a broken translation of the Greek. Orthodox churches are awesome. Yeah. All churches are beautiful in their way. Churches, temples, cathedrals, they're awesome. Awesome expressions of human awe. I am starting to get anxious about the snow. Give me 1 second. Okay, so it's supposed to snow for the next few hours. So I need to get out of my tent. I need to pee. I need to hydrate. It's been too long since the last time I had water. I've been talking a lot. I'm sitting in this cold, and it leaches the moisture like right out of your skin, out of my hair. I can see it, like all the wrinkles in my face are so pronounced. I need to get up. I need to end this. Thank you, Jackie, for the for the um for the tip. Um, when my teeth are clean, I have the money to go. I accidentally, and by accidentally, I really do mean accidentally, spent a lot more money yesterday than I meant to. I spent $30 on lunch when I really didn't mean to. Um, so I think I'm gonna go have another hamburger. I think I'm gonna do that, which means I'm gonna spend too much money. Um, so I might not be live immediately when I get to today. It depends on how long it takes me to edit this scene. I'm gonna edit this scene like I promised, so I have something to do tomorrow morning, like I promised. Yeah, and I plan to get into Final Fantasy VIII today. Um, I didn't remember that scene, and so I didn't remember my intention with that scene. And so when I sat down and looked at my original draft, it was a first draft. The action was happening out of order with the description of the scene. The scene, I could very much tell that I was just trying to get it out of me. I could see it. I was trying to get it out. And so I didn't know how to sculpt it. And so it took the time that it took to sculpt it and to understand exactly what I was seeing and what I was looking at, to contextualize it, to know what was happening. I had to go back. I had to go through and I didn't have to. I chose to go through and read later scenes with the necromancer to see what I was foreshadowing toward. If I was improvising all of his scenes, then many of them were going to have elements that should be in this first one. So I went and read his later scenes and mined them for the elements that should be where they're supposed to be. So I really sat down and did the work. I really did the legwork yesterday. And so these next two scenes should be easy. I might even be able to get the next two scenes today because they're scenes that I had worked on for years to get right, get the pacing, the plotting, the characters in the right place. But the scene that follows them is going to be entirely original to this revision. So it's going to take me all day, and that'll be Monday. So Monday you're probably not going to hear from me later in the day. But today we should be able to, depending on how much more farming I want to do, grind our way to disc 4 of Final Fantasy VIII. And then depending on my patience, we might just go get the last GF, grind it all the way up to the top, and go whoop the game's ass. Hi, Rach. And go whoop the game's ass under level just because I fucking feel like it. Because Squall's done, so let's just go fucking beat this game. I don't even know if I give a shit about any more of the grinding that we need to do. Squall's done, let's go. That's kind of how I feel about it. But I am also kind of pacing myself. I'm pacing myself through two things. Dragon Quest VII, the remake, just dropped. And so I kind of want to play it. Because we played the remake of 3 a lot. And I haven't played 7 yet. So I kind of want to do that. And the other thing I'm pacing myself through is that Final Fantasy VII's PC port is getting an update. And I'm waiting for that to show up in my Steam. And when that happens, if that happens before I've beaten Final Fantasy VIII, I plan to just do the thing. Just go smack this bitch in the mouth and get it done with. And then play Final Fantasy VII again. So I can be like, look how much this game sucks compared to that one. And you have a baseline for why I was pissed off about it. Because 7 was a mess. I never finished it before 8. And then 8 came and my cousin and I were like, this is too fucking cool not to finish. And then we finished it. And then I tried to go back to 7 and I was like, and then I played Kingdom Hearts. And then I tried to go back to 7 because Cloud's in it. And I was like, and And then I played Final Fantasy X, and I tried to go back to Final Fantasy 7. I was like, meh. And then I played 1 through 6 and tried to get into 7, and I was like, fine, I'll fucking beat it. I'll fucking beat it. And then I beat it, and I was like, that's the fucking ending? And so here we are. I need to beat it as an adult. But my last playthrough for the channel, I robbed the channel. I robbed the channel in pursuit of loyalty from my Discord audience. Yes, it took me a second. It's that's rage. I was playing it for the channel with the single question in mind. Do they ever explain what the fuck is going on with Cloud? Do they explain it adequately in the story? Or that deer didn't like that I'm talking? Or is it bullshit? Is it bullshit that you have to find? And the answer is both things are true. You can find it on disc 2. You can find it just plainly laid out and explained on the ground mysteriously. But if you know the story, it's explained right there in disc 2. Okay, fine. Adequate. And then what I did is I got all the way up until where Cloud goes into the fucking live stream. And I chose to stream my watch and explanation and aha of what's going on in the live stream between him and Tifa. I did that on the Discord for the people that I thought were my true, like, cultish followers. And that was a mistake for the channel. So I got to start over because I like doing that. I like starting over. Because not only are you better, but you understand it better. And you can get through it faster. And so I'm pacing myself. If I eat on the $50 that Mr. S sent me yesterday, then I can't get Dragon Quest 7. If I don't beat Final Fantasy 8, it's silly to pivot to anything else. And then I've got all these other games. Oh, I've got so many games. But like, you guys aren't interested in Balatro, you guys aren't interested in Barony, and you guys just could not give less of a shit about Soul Kesto. I get it. Those are games I like. If I were bored and I didn't want to talk to you anymore and I didn't want to leave the tent, I could boot up the laptop and I could do that for the next 2 or 3 hours. That's why he sent them to me. I'm not bitching at anybody. I am hesitating to go back to Ultima 1 and to pivot to Wizardry 2 and East 2 because you guys don't really give a shit. And now that I'm fully engaged in Leaf, I no longer particularly give a shit about those expanding my horizons activities. Because when I'm creating, when I'm making something, constantly having new influences come in is how a character like the necromancer can evolve every single scene he's in, so that by the last scene he's a totally different kind of character than he was in the first scene. And then you have to go back and you have to retrofit his first scene like I've already done, and that's an editing process that never ends. So I have to close off all of my influences. No new movies, no new video games, no new whatevers, no new TV shows. Not even, I don't even watch Neebs anymore, their new stuff, because I don't want new influences. Just a total fucking. Have you seen that movie or watched that TV show or read the book The Dome by Stephen King? Just a total fucking dome around me and my creative influences. Yeah, she's typical Rach from yesterday, Jackie. She just changed her username. Yeah, the dome. I just put a dome, a hermetically sealed dome around my influences so that no new influences can get in and change my characters or change my world in any kind of way. And so if I'm going to do that, but I'm going to continue, that means I'm pivoting full time, showing you my influences, which means Final Fantasy 7, which means Final Fantasy 6, which definitely means that if I beat Final Fantasy 8 before they remaster, they fucking publish this Final Fantasy 7 thing, I'm starting to get agitated, Square. You're starting to fuck up my workflow. I have to play Final Fantasy 6. Or we could do Grandia 2. There's things yeah, well, the show got lost off the rails because the book has things that the show can't do. So the show was going to jump off the rails quickly. And also the show was Stephen King's hubris that he could do a better serial television show than the Game of Thrones. So of course it was going to jump the shark and jump the rails quickly. And Mr. S wants to do Final Fantasy X, and so 5 is set aside until I have believers on the Discord. And so six just stands out like a big thumb because I can't play Kingdom Hearts. And so we'd have to play other franchises. I didn't see that you asked if I'm well. I'm fine, Rach. As far as I know, I'm fine. I need to get out of the tent. It's snowing. I need to pee, and I need to get water. So we're in the Midwestern goodbye phase of the show. Take care. V is the first letter of my first name, Jackie. That's what my girlfriends always call me. I used to always give my MMORPG characters, my mains, I always used to give them V first names and just have people call me V because in the voice chat I wouldn't respond to another name. I wouldn't hear it. Hey, that's the way you do it. That's the way you do it. You make their favorite food, you make something sweet, you do something that seems like you're just busy. Just occupy yourself. I used to tell my most recent, not my most recent ex, I used to tell Kat. I used to tell her, the woman I lived with most recently, I used to tell her all the fucking time, just do something. Do something. Write a poem, make a painting, do something with your time. And then when I emerge to see what you're doing, or I emerge, you can show me what you've done. We have something to do together. Don't make all your time about her. That's if I were going to give you an ultimatum, like just make your time about something else. Even if secretly it is about her. Just let it be secret in your heart. Have that little girl glee of, she doesn't know that I love her. I know it's always about her, but she doesn't need to be conscientious of that. Because what if it's always about you to her, and she wants to enjoy the cookies because it's about enjoying your cookies? That was more sexual than I meant it to be. Now I want a fucking cookie. I spent too much money yesterday. I'm not gonna lie. I spent too much money yesterday. I really can't afford to go and get a fucking hamburger today. I really can't because I want a fucking hamburger She hasn't enjoyed your cookie in days. Well, it sounds like she can't enjoy your cookie because you're making it about her and she wants to make it about you. You know what? You are not the first woman I have said that to. You're probably you're definitely the nth woman I've said that to. So you're definitely at least the second woman I have said that to. Sometimes you just want to nosh on a fucking cookie because you like noshing on fucking cookie. Not because the cookie likes when you nosh on it. You see what I'm saying? You are not the first woman I have had to fucking explain that to. Sometimes it's just nice to nosh cookie. The snow has become nice, light, fluffy flakes. Thank you for your prayer. It has been answered. God has said, here, ease up your anxiety a little bit. Thank you guys for everything you do. You can't see it because of the tarps. I'm a big fan of cookie too. Go to the Panera and be like, I want cookie, but you guys don't serve the kind I want, and see how quick I get kicked out. I did it all for the cookie. We're dumb. I gotta get out of here. This has devolved into ridiculous nonsense. This town needs a... Never mind. I'm just gonna keep my fucking mouth to keep my fucking mouth shut. Keep my mouth to myself, too. I gotta stop looking at the fucking screen every time I see that. I'm just like, yeah, me too. It does. It does. That's why everybody used to wear short skirts. Sometimes you just want to see a cookie. Excuse me, miss. Will you please pass the cookie? I'm gonna get myself fucking kicked out of public today. Yeah. I just reminded myself of my absolute favorite moment in Neebs Gaming. Simon's being all horny. Dora goes, hey man, you feeling all right? You might need to rub one out tonight. Simon's like, what are you talking about? And then Dora tells him the fucking bear story. I am not saying a word. You gotta stop. Yeah. That's what bloomers are for. Stop it. Oh, man. I stink so bad. I know there are ways I could fix it, and I probably don't use those ways to fix it on purpose for a smart and good reason. Just keep myself away from women. Keep them at a little bit of a radius. There we go. Shoes are on. Man, you know, I don't know why I never thought to do that. I don't know why it took me so long to think, you got that hand warmer. Just fucking warm the insides of your shoes. I don't know why that took so damn long, but that was the fucking best choice I think I've ever made in my entire life. Nothing wrong with thumb thighs at all. Yeah, I know that, Jackie. I know that too. I see the looks I get. I just keep my fucking mouth shut because I don't know what's going to get me on a fucking watch list anymore. And all of the women that I flirt with they always are married. All of the women I flirt with, I'm like, ah, you're attractive. You seem to enjoy talking to me. They're always married. Yeah, something like pheromones for sure. Okay, so I have to pee. I got to get off of here. Talking to this woman is gonna get me in trouble. People are gonna think I'm just some perv who lives in a tent, and I am. But they don't need to be thinking about it. All right, I love you guys, and hey, analog. I know, I know. Believe me, because I spend so much time thinking, I let my eyes wander the room. I see them seeing me, catching them. I see them thinking that I'm catching them, looking at me, when really I'm just like looking around the room and trying not to look like I'm looking at them. So enjoy your baking. I'm gonna go get something to eat, and I hope that I don't say something that gets me kicked out of public. I'm not gonna. I'm joking. I am entirely joking. Um, you may or may not see more from me today. I will try. I will make an effort to, if I'm not gonna go live, stay in touch with shorts like I used to. I'm in writing mode, and so I need to remember that I'm also a YouTuber. So I'll do my best. If I know, I'll do it like I did the other day. If I know that I'm not gonna get on to play Final Fantasy VIII, I'll just let you guys sit with me while I write and distract me, and I'll talk to you about what I'm thinking or whatever. So thank you. I gotta pee. Take care of yourselves. Be well. You'll see more from me in the future.